What's up, guys? So before we head into the current week, I did a little bit of fine tuning. So straight into it, I did get Wing Tree to level 12 in God's inventory, and I'm trying to catch up with Thorn, but I think I got Thorn at level 15 now. So it's gonna be a process. Plus, as I noticed, Enryu is very good for longer fights than shorter fights, so it's probably a better choice to prioritize White in the meantime, if you're going for progression at least. But I decided I was going to give the legendary gear a shot. So I decided to pick out the boots since I didn't have those, and I was on very limited resources for refines, as you guys saw from the last video. 1300 stones for nothing, but at least I got the blue skill cooldown reduction. And that's probably the most common one you're gonna see. I don't even see purples for that one, so I can't even imagine golds. But eventually, I'd like to improve on those. So I got the boots to T3. Then I figured to level it up all the way to 25, just because it's if I have all my gear already 25 or higher, I don't want to see it below hand. Went into the white armored eel. Actually, no, I went to the sentinel first, and I noticed a pretty big jump. So I went from 302 mil to 350 mil. Enryu is just insane in long-term fights. His damage is unmatched for that. I mean, even in White Armored Eel, I did 11 million more just by having legendary boots. So I don't remember what I did here, but I fine-tuned something else, went back into Gigantic Sentinel, and got 367 mil this time. So Enryu did 150 million damage alone. Realized that was really good. I wanted to work on the chest. So at this point, more of an upgrade. I feel like the chest is more for the defensive part than the offensive. So I was going to get level 25, but then I ran out of the stones. So pain with the expert armor stones or weapon ones is you have to just craft into it. And at least with the armor, you're going to obtain that more easily than the weapon. So at this point, I was just trying to get it transcended, work on the gear. Thanks to the new God's Breath shop, I was able to get another legendary piece. And then I ended up having T3 for both armor pieces. I'm not sure if I'm going to still just max the Fug. I feel like I want to get the boots for Enryu going, but I did do a random blue multi to get Sachi Weapon. And you can see here where I left them off, so I have such bad luck with accessories. I can't even get a matching set or anything. But he's at 210k power, 2892 attack, still less on the defensive and HP stats. But he's as strong as I can get him now without getting more transcends for legendary gear. White, however, 215,000. He does have a max chest, so he gets a lot more power than him. But overall, I'd say that Enryu, I'm not really doing too well with in progression with him, but for admin, he's insane. Anyway, we're now back to the current week. Last week was, I will say, insane. There was so much content, so many things to do. Managed to get you guys out 2 1-hour-long videos regarding Enryu. So if you didn't get to see those and you are still interested, go check it out. Now for this week, we do have Summer XiaXia and this Selective Summon coming out. So we are also going to be having Summer Yon in the next 2 weeks or so, right after XiaXia, I believe. And then we're going to have the new summer units, which is going to be Endorsi and Rachel, which we actually see a leak for how summer Endorsi is going to look. So you can see right there how she looks. So we're going to have a collaboration between Hero Cantare as well as Tower of God, for the global version at least, and Hero Cantare is basically the other game that they have, which was Tower of God. So we're going to see what happens. I mean, it's supposed to be collab units. I don't even know what they would add or what is going to be a part of that. The Summer XiaXia herself, she is really cool. Kind of hard to really talk about whether you should go for her or not. I would just probably say still no, since we're getting her for free. But I'll give it more of a breakdown towards the end. But this Selective Summon, and you actually can see the list in here. So every single summon is going to give you a legendary character and their ignition weapon. It only goes up to the original 12 legendaries, I believe. So the last one you can pull is Casado. And one thing to note is that you can use this reroll to obtain Hoaquin dupes. So your best bet is that you can probably get 2 Hoaquin dupes while going for the legendary that you want. This banner does not expire. It's here for a long term. So I would say try your luck rerolling for Hoaquin dupes if you still don't have T6. If you can't, try for 2 and your legendary unit of choice. Just get 1 Hoaquin dupe and your legendary of choice. So going by the units, I would say you want to follow the global roadmap and plan for the Fate Amplification bond skills that will be coming out in the next month. So besides the bond skills, your best pick is probably Sachi, but he is going to be irrelevant pretty soon, or at least not as good as he once was. So you have 2 main options that I recommend you to go for. The number 2 option is going to be going for Rock of all things, which is not something anyone would expect. So what the amplification does is that it will end up giving the unit increased effects for whatever they have as far as the skills go. And on top of that, you do have to have a certain level of affinity and fates. And after that, you'd have to go ahead and actually improve on the bond skill, I believe. But it is going to be very, very important. So with Rock, if you look at his skill right now, you're just like, why would he ever become something so good? And you have to take a look at his amplification effect. So you can see here what his amplification does. For skill 1, it ends up giving a physical damage boost to every single unit that is on Bomb's Fate affinity. And this is only for Black March Bomb, the first bomb that we get. It is not for First Thorn. So now you can see why Anaak will pair so good with him. So they're both on that Fate tree. She's a physical damage user. There's also a tower climber for that synergy. And she's going to be able to get a maximum of 120% physical damage boost, according to Rock being on the team. The passive will give Bomb 5% extra defense, which doesn't really matter. But the EX is something special. So for 8 seconds, there will be guaranteed critical hits for all units in Bomb's Fate. And it's going to also increase his own physical damage for 16 seconds. Between 30% to 70%, depending on the skill level, and he's going to increase Bomb's magical damage between 15 to 45%, depending on that skill. That's really, really good. For that reason, all you need to do is just give Rock 1 time to unlock him, but you probably have to at least get a dupe or 2 to get the Fate Amplification unlocked through the web. And obviously, the higher affinity, the better it's going to be. But he is the support for the future. For every single administrator trial team is going to be Rock, and Anaak is going to join him. So this is why if you don't have Rock at all, but you have Anaak, you might want to make sure you have Rock for next month. And when it comes to the ignition skill, you probably don't really want it, as you're going to want him to spam his skill 1 and EX. So it is fine to not have his ignition weapon, but that is why Rock is number 2 pick for the Selective Summon. Now the obvious choice for who to pick in the Selective Summon, because there's not really many choices, is going to be Green April Anaak. Now, she is Tower Climber Fisherman, like one of the best things that you can be in this game. And she has physical damage, but she pairs perfectly with Rock alongside Bomb for Administrator Trial, and alongside Enryu, that will be your White Eel team. And you're going to also use that quadruple setup for the next 2 Administrator Trials, plus or minus some supports along the way. So Anaak has a pretty good kit on her own. She does do really good damage, surprisingly, and she does boost herself crit-wise. Now, when you take a look at Anaak's amplification, is insane. So let's go into it as a booster skill 2, which is her main damaging skill. It's going to give an additional physical damage boost. So that means that she will go from a maximum of 655% physical damage. If you have the second and fifth dupe for her, you can add an additional 210% at max, which will increase her skill damage to 865%. But if it is going to be a critical hit, then her skill will go up to at least a plus 315% on top of that. So her maximum damage on that skill will be a 970% of her physical damage. So she is almost doing twice as much damage as she will be normally with that amplification. It's insane. And it looks like it is just either correcting the translation or fixing the skill, but it's just going to mean that it is for a single target skill. Doesn't have the percentages as Bong Bong, but she does have really good synergy, and it just gives her almost double the damage on her skill too, which is insane. Her passive will also increase Bomb's defense by 5%, but the EX is where she's also going to shine. So she will increase her own attack speed up to 140% for 10 seconds, while also increasing Bomb's magical damage up to almost 45% for 16 seconds. And she's going to add a damage coefficient, which is going to be 60% for each normal attack and ignition attack when you use the EX. So I'm just assuming that she's going to be doing 60% more damage after every EX with this stuff too. Like, she's getting a huge damage boost, but she is your carry. So alongside Enryu, she will be doing ridiculous damage. And in order to prepare for amplification, you will need to just have Rock and Anaak worked on, get their affinity and fates up, and you're also going to want to work on the spirit of swordsmanship when it comes to Anaak, because this is going to be very key for her to do damage. Plus with Anaak, she's also boosting her own crit. So for her to have a chance to crit is relatively high, as well as if you can go ahead and build her weapon for her. I think it does give crit increase. So you can see here, she gets the fancy Destiny sword, and it does have crit on the weapon. So even though she's probably the only one in the game that will use the Tower Climber physical weapon, if you're really that dedicated to Anaak, you will go out and get this weapon, improve it, max it out. It's going to be a huge boost for her. And for me personally, I prioritize Administrator Trial for the gameplay as the #1 progression to aim for, because that's how you obtain the most amount of rewards, and they will probably increase the rewards that you can obtain relatively shortly. So that's enough about the Selective Summon. My pick is to just go for Anaak. So even if you already have her, you need more dupes, want to get more dupes. From this entire list, I mean, unless you're a brand new account, you know, you have a more different choice, but Ron is still great, but he's only going to be shining in King's Order when you're fighting Anaak. Yuri-Ha is not the best. Hansung is great for Tower of Trial. Huairun is, I'd say, almost obsolete if you already don't have her maxed out and invested in, because you're going to have Waterbomb Commander XiaXia, and she is going to just breathe free right now alongside her ignition weapon, so you'll have a defense breaker. Regular XiaXia I feel like is not really that good anymore either. Urak just needs such high investment, really needs at least T3 or more. Reflejo is not good, Beta's not good. Evan's a great healer, but I feel like you probably shouldn't really focus on him unless you don't have him. Verity's okay. Sachi has been amazing, but his time is coming to an end relatively soon. Daniel's okay, and Kasano's okay, so yeah, I would really just say go for Anaak's weapon. Now with the Waterbomb Commander XiaXia, you have quite a few things about her. For starters, she's going to be in this event, so we can actually obtain her for free. It's going to be 5,000 currency and 10,000 to get her and her weapon. And if for diamonds, you can just go ahead and get them both right now. But we're going to just take care of that. Get myself the summon ticket for her and for her weapon. I can also get some blues out of that, and we'll leave it there. Now we go into this. So, Waterbomb Commander XiaXia. She's a light bearer tower climber. Tower climbers are always big plus because they give synergy with the first bomb. And if they're a tower climber, you can at least try to see to make things work. It doesn't really work out with Donghei, at least, let's say. Well, let's take a look at what she can do. So, the key points about her is her skill 2, because it's a defense break. And at 2 dupes and 5, she gets an additional 5% or 10% combined. So she gets a defense break that is 10% for 5 seconds. With the dupes, it's 20% for 5 seconds. Which is very good. Her passive is going to increase her own damage, but you also have the EX, which is also a defense break. So at level 20, a 30% defense break for 7 seconds, and with the 6th dupe maxed out, you'll be doing a 40% defense break. Now this is where you compare it to Huayran. So the skill 2, I already forgot, unfortunately, 20%. So you have 20% from her. Huayran, her skill 2 is going to give you 20, it's going to give you 30% skill break, so it's actually higher. Wow, it's actually higher. I for some reason thought she'd be having less defense break, so her skill 2 is a higher defense break. But Huayran is physical, XiaXia is magical. And then her EX is probably also going to be higher as well, or about the same, so it's going to be 40% for both. So I guess never mind. I mean, if you don't have Huayran invested in and you don't have her at all, your brand new account, whatever the deal may be, you're fine with the Waterbomb Commander XiaXia, but if you already have her invested in, I'd say Huayran is probably still the better choice. The only difference is that Waterbomb XiaXia might do more damage because she is magic, so she's gonna get bombs boost from Deceiving Girl. She's a tower climber, so she's also gonna get Spirit of Swordsmanship, get the critical damage boost from that. Pretty good, but you know, for Administrator Trial, once Fate Amplification comes out, she's gonna have no place for that. So the only spot that she's gonna have is to be a pretty much defense breaker for your second team in King's Order, probably. Her skill 1 does fair damage. I mean, she has a lot of hits. So you can see here, her skill 1 is going to attack 2 times. Total of 157%. So that's 315% combined. With the dupes, it's another 100%, so 415%. You can have the skill 2, like we've seen multiple times. And her ignition is just going to increase teammates' attacks. I mean, she's really nothing outstanding. We do just get her for free. And yeah, I think besides her synergy, she doesn't have much going for her. So my advice is probably don't pull for her. Get your free copy. You can also end up getting a relay in the shop. So we're able to get 2 more dupes. You can get her T2 and you can get her weapon T1. So it does help you out. You don't have to pull for 4 copies if that was the case. And just looking at everything else in the shop, we do have the special summon support package. So instead of giving Waterbomb Commander XiaXia her own package, they just did a generic one. We have this hot deals and there's also the relay. So you can get yourself a bunch of stuff including 500 diamonds, more and more and more and more. So pretty good deal. I mean, Road to Summer Festival, it's summer in the tower, like they say. There's also the Fate Starlight pack, the level up package for Waterbomb Commander XiaXia, and the summertime gear upgrade. So not the greatest packs this week, especially since Enryu is still gonna be here for 2. Do not pull into XiaXia when you can get yourself more Enryu dupe. Do not want to mess up like that. I am going to get the relay packs though, so we're gonna be getting this up real quick. Alright, so I did go to the shop, picked up what I felt like was what I would get. They get gold packages, starlights, Road to Summer Festival, XiaXia Relay. We're gonna get all of that. So let's get this. We got 3 XiaXia tickets. And now I can also get her weapon twice. Right there, let's just put some gear on. I have to always fix it up every single time too. And then I guess it's gonna be the ignition weapon. So for that, I just got 2 of her ignition weapon, which probably gonna be irrelevant. I mean, the increased damage is cool, but I do have a T5 tower climber ignition, so it will give me higher attack speed. No, actually, attack speed is the next one away, which I could get, but it is going to give me longer ignition time and higher crit rate, so I'm going to equip it since it's going to be more stats for her compared to just having a T1 Black Rabbit water gun. And another thing is, people often don't understand ignition weapons, and it's something to always go over. So with an ignition weapon, yes, it allows you to have your character ignite, but just because a character's ignition is going to be turned off, it doesn't mean that you should not get the legendary ignition weapon, because you get the stats regardless. So family ones are great, but they do have less stats than the single character versions, and as well as different Shinsu skill effects. But the most efficient thing in the long run, you want to just have every single family weapon T6. So that's why all the future blacksmith cards I will save for just the family weapons to get them all maxed out. Because if you had a T6 family weapon, it's 55% base attack speed, and it would just mean you'd have to actually go ahead and T6 a weapon in order to beat it. Unless you're trying to get the skill, you know. So in the case of Enryu, even though his ignition skill is going to be turned off for me, you shouldn't skip the ignition weapon because you're missing out on 40% attack speed. And it just makes no sense why you would do that. So if you had the family one, you'd be getting 30% attack speed for him. But when you compare it to the purples, I mean, you get 15% attack speed for a tower climber 1, but 15% is so small compared to 40%. And it is half of the family weapon on top of that. So take into account that you also want the base attack speed stat on legendary units, even if you're not going to have the ignition on. Anything past that, I mean, if you max it, it's because it's a great unit. Really overpowered, otherwise you don't have to do all that. So we have Waterbomb Commander here. Get the T2 right off the bat. So, I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel like I'm just going to pull anyway. But you want at least 3 or 4 for the Fate. Assuming she has it, I didn't even check. But for her to be properly usable, you want the 5 and 6. So it's quite a dilemma, but thankfully they're doing a summer event for Yon and XiaXia. And I'm not sure if they're doing the same kind of thing for Rachel and Endorsi, because if they do make it easier and give you out a dupe or 2 and let you relay, it would help out a lot. So let's just see what we're going to do with the summon. So I do have blue summons. I have 463 reds. I would need 4 copies if I go for it. So the other thing is, I'll do the selective summon afterwards, I guess. We're not going to do it now. Let's just do the blues. Pray for some ignition weapons at this point. They didn't add anyone into the blue pool, and the next one, it's supposed to be Albelda. I'm personally expecting Albelda to get added when Enryu is about to leave. Again, Urek dupe right here. Well, I got 4 purples in that multi. Can we at least squeeze one more legendary? We do. It's gonna be a Kasano. So, no ignition weapons, unfortunately, but I'm aiming for that. And then summons. I guess I'm just gonna go for it. I mean, at least I can see myself using her, unlike Donghei. The Yon dupe. But XiaXia is kind of hit or miss. I mean, I really don't expect her to be used. At least Yon, I know, would be guaranteed progression right off the bat. So that's T3. 4. No, I got Donghei's ignition weapon. And it's funny because we're legit talking about him right now. Okay, that's 4 right here. That's good. I mean, I wish I could just get that luck and get them right off the rip. Five, nope, wreck. Hoaquin. That's gonna be 5. One more. That's First Storm Bomb's weapon. And that's XiaXia 6. So, it didn't go too bad. I think it was about 180. I think it was to get her 4 dupes, so I'll take that. Don't need the weapon. You know, at 180 I could live with it. I feel like there's either potential or there isn't, and I'd rather keep it because, like I said, she has so much synergy with Bomb that I feel like she is good enough to use. But we just won't know for certain. So 176k, let me see if she has a fate. That's interesting. She actually does not have a fate. And on top of that, she's not linked with regular XiaXia. So this is the first time in Global where we have a unit release and there's no fate for them. So we're gonna see what happens. Maybe it gets added on later. Maybe they forgot. Or maybe they'll add her to link with XiaXia. Who knows? But yeah, it's kind of disappointing. I mean, I was expecting there to be a fate so I can just get power from that, and right now there isn't anything. So I did do 376 summons, but there was a lot of blues, so I wouldn't really follow along with that. We also have this countdown silhouette puzzle challenge, so I will put it up on the screen, but you're gonna have all the solutions to every single code. You just have to wait for it to be the day that it says, and you can actually just redeem all the codes here. So you can see right there, the first puzzle. Right now we're going to be on the Endorsi puzzle, or Endorsi. So you're gonna have the first day and the second day. It's gonna be the top 2 codes. Follow along. You can always go back to the video if you don't have the codes on hand or if you don't see them on the Discords. And you know, it's also posted in my Discord and pinned in the channel if you aren't in it. You can join in the description. These are all the codes. Gonna give you some rewards. It gives you keys and summons and other things that might be useful. So the first day gives you 25 keys. Second is gonna give you 20 of the blue. Upgrades for armor. And it's gonna give you a sneak peek at the unit that's gonna be at the end. So gotta go through this for a week. Gonna claim my mail from all the King's Order we have right now. Gotta restack my refines after you guys saw what happened, especially now that I'm trying to get my refines back in order so I can just get the rest of the weapons 60%. Back up to 183, so I'm not too worried. But now I suppose I did go for Waterbomb Commander XiaXia. It's going to be hard to use her over Huayran when there's such a power discrepancy too. I mean, Huayran has about 30k power on her. Even with Fates, it would still probably be like at least a 15k power difference, and even if I level skills, it'd probably be at least a 10k power difference. So probably not going to be using Waterbomb Commander XiaXia, but I do have her maxed out. Only unit I didn't max out was Donghei. And do I regret it? Probably not. I do need to find a way to get use of my Destiny cards down the line. So he's probably gonna be United's Destiny card to 6 because why not? So for the Selective Summon, I know I said Anaak and Rock, but for me, I'm going for Sachi because I want the weapon maxed. Not worried about Anaak because there's a Destiny Summon coming up next month. And I do plan on using it for Anaak's weapon to have the weapon from not even owning it to getting it T6 in anticipation for the Fate Amplification skills. So, best thing about the Selective Summon is that I think it's permanent. It doesn't expire, doesn't go away. It's not going to change though. So you get to just keep summoning and you can confirm it. And if you back out, it's not going to save your progress. So I am only going to do this just to get Sachi and then call it a day. Unfortunately, I did not get any Sachi weapons until now still. But another thing is you have Hoaquin in this. So since you can reroll for this infinitely, I would say to infinitely reroll until you get Anaak and her weapon, and then until you have 2 Hoaquins. But if you really can't be bothered to try your RNG and do that, then just at least settle for Anaak and 1 Hoaquin, because if you don't have him maxed, the dupes will be a huge help. Especially for those who don't have tanks. But for me, I only need Sachi and his weapon. I only need his weapon. So I don't need to go for Hoaquin, he's already maxed out. I'm just gonna confirm it, take this summon. I don't really care. Don't need any more than that. So I'll take that extra dupe. And you get the entire multi alongside whatever else it would give you. Some more God's Breath and a duplicate. Now I can get his weapon to 4. With the Blacksmith card I can get it 5. And then I just need to either pull another one or get another Blacksmith card. But that wouldn't happen until maybe next season pass, or if they do a pack recently for a Blacksmith card. Either way, I still have some fusions. Maybe I can get lucky and get a weapon. So we have the purples. We're praying for legendaries. Oh my god, that's Ron T6. That's actually great. I can finally use Ron at his max potential. So it's a good thing I never used the Blacksmith card. All that patience paid off. So now Ron is T6, T6, and I'm not gonna notice that until pretty much King's Order. I don't really use him anywhere else anymore, unfortunately. But that's another weapon to the collection, which right now the collection effect is at 14 T6 ignition weapons, so it gives me plus 24 crit now. In order to get the 1.2% damage resist, I'm gonna need another 2 ignition weapons max, which is probably gonna be when I get Anaak's weapon and maxed out, because like I said, I don't have her ignition weapon, which is a shocker to me still. Like, I've never obtained it, and especially since it boosts her damage, I'm gonna maximize it because I want her to have that 70% attack speed, and I want her to get that, I think it's 27% to increase damage after using a skill. But it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a problem. Sachi's the last one I'm trying to actually obtain, and I think all my T5 weapons right now are maxed out, so got a little ways to go. Besides the family one, I guess, is the next one to really obtain. Wow, I finally cleared 398. Like, Jesus, that was so bad. I might have been able to clear it a week or two ago. It was just such a pain that I just didn't want to mess with it. But I ended up switching to this setup. So it probably works with Hoaquin as a tank too, if you have on my T6. But yeah, I just went with the healing route for VO. And if you're not going to use Hoaquin, then you probably don't need to use the Fug defense increase for the first skill. But yeah, finally I was able to clear. Thank God. Well, at long last, I'm finally up to right spot 400. So I can obtain the maximum amount of gold from the gold chest. Honestly, looking back, I still don't know why I maxed Waterbomb Commander XiaXia, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm just glad there was a relay and it wasn't too bad. Can't wait for Yon though, so I can actually get some progress. But at least my right spot days are over until they increase it, which, knowing my luck, it'll probably get increased next week. Also, I'm kind of approaching level cap, which is a surprise, so we're 50% to level 248, and 251 is the cap right now. Would not be surprised if they raise the cap shortly, maybe within next week even, as a lot of people have caught up into it. And I'm still surprised, but as I was looking through the power rankings, I am actually 5th overall in power, which I don't remember myself ever being so high up for that. So it's quite a surprise. So rank 5 overall power. Level wise, I am 33 overall. A lot of people have reached 250. So it's pretty crazy to think that the level cap is still not raised. I don't know if it's capped at a 250 or 251, but people have been not really obtaining as much experience into a 250 at all, so I'm assuming that 250 is the cap. We're also long overdue for Tower of Trial to get a big boost, so there should be Tower of Trial 400 coming out probably in the next 2 weeks as well. So since I got XiaXia maxed, I might as well try to give her a chance. So I went into King's Order, which is probably the only place I can think of actually using her. And I have to go ahead and finish off XiaXia, so I did just use my physical team to take care of that. So now that Anaak is unlocked, we're gonna use this to benchmark her. So this has been my standard setup with Enryu. It's just it sometimes doesn't save the team from week to week. So my regular setup, it gets around 40 to 41 million on floor 7. So the benchmark is to try and beat that. I do find it kind of hard on who to replace, and yes, for me, Ron does more damage than Yon. So I had to go ahead and level up XiaXia's skills. I was only going to get the defense break skills to 11 and get the passive and skill 1 to 6. Eventually, I'll get them all to 11. Right now, I just didn't really have faith in her. I didn't really expect it to be an improvement at all. So she went up to 180k power. Now I switched the setup around. I did figure to just... What would happen if I just put Yon in there as well and see if all my magic carries can do anything? And the results were horrible as I expected. I mean, you do want to have a support. So I got 27 million damage with Yon, Ron, and Enryu. So I switched Sachi out. It's kind of a tough spot. Don't really have much of an option on what to do or where to put them. And the results are quite surprising. I also do want to say I love her animation. She has like a little rabbit shooting a water gun and like an army of them. So I think that's great. I think the art is always amazing in this game. But yeah, the results were much better. I mean, I did pull about 49 million damage with her. So now I have to find out where I can put Sachi in my future King's Order teams. But that's gonna be all for the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Live Moss and stay free to play.